Evening, folks. Brian here at Geomagnetic Earthwatch on Monday, February 27, 2023 on our planet. Thought I'd do a different version of a daily brief. Maybe not so brief. Covering some news topics as well as of my usual seismic reporting, etc. So the geomagnetic storm, which started, when was it? Last night, maybe? Yeah, last night. Very briefly reached up to KP8, which is G4 severe geomagnetic storm conditions, with solar winds topping off well over 800 kilometers per second. Now, people, just please keep in mind that this was not a full frontal attack on our planet. We got just the tail end of that plasma stream. Now, I've actually been waiting for something like this to happen. I don't want it to happen, but I've been waiting because I want to judge just how weak our protective magnetosphere is, since we haven't had a direct impact hit for quite some time. Now, you can gauge yourself how you and your loved ones have been responding over the past 24 hours, going through the list of the neurological, neuropsychological, and physiological effects of cosmic radiation on the brain and on the body. I can tell you that my 14-year-old autistic daughter foot went through the door, quite literally. Anyway, so let this be a guide, a gauge, a test. Now, planet Earth has already responded as expected. When you cover this so many times for so many years, you know what to expect and where. For example, the Tyrrhenian Sea off the coast of Italy. Deep earthquakes, 4.5 at about 400 and some odd kilometers deep. Therefore, we can expect, and I guarantee you it's going to happen, that the Stromboli volcano, within, let's say, 4 or 8 to 40 hours, will erupt fairly largely. Next, Bonin Island, south of Japan. 507 kilometers deep, 4.1. Standard location deep earthquakes. We can expect others, the usual Fiji, Sea of Arcturus, and maybe some other areas. We'll do our assessment tomorrow morning. See how many more we're going to have. So again, this was not a direct hit to our planet. Now, let's go over some other news articles. I've already reported a number of heat anomalies off of the southwest coast of Ireland. To me, I expect these for the reasons previously stated. I do not know the burning practices, for example. Now, most of these are in the Rocky mountainous regions, and 2 are now on fire. So there's a couple of people who commented on that video. Thank you. Maybe if you can do a follow-up and let me know what's going on over there. In Inch Ballitorman, sorry if I butchered that, and Ballintal, Glenloch. Sounds like Klingon, sorry. I'm just curious what's going on down there. Next. So the United Nations is putting out another report, yet again. The more of these they're going to be putting out, the closer we are to something happening. You know what I mean? So in their latest report, the world is on track to overshoot the 1.5 degrees of warming. So it is time to study reflecting the sun away from the earth. Reflecting sun away from the earth is dangerous in their report, but it is also doable at a low cost. And if they fail to get the global warming, which does not exist, under control, then they have to seriously consider the completely blanketing the earth to deflect the sunlight away from our planet. That should scare the shit out of you. That's not the reason, though. Remember when they discovered the 9th planet coming in, Planet X, Wormwood? And the cover story that they had to come up with to explain Earth's responses, the gravitational and geomagnetic influence on our planet. Pardon me, electromagnetic influence and gravitational. The tides, for example, rising sea level. And also, for as long as possible, they don't want us to be able to see anything, despite all the reports coming out weekly now about the 9th planet already in our system and the other big planetary bodies and all the scary pictures that they're implanting into our psyche. So yet again, the United Nations is pushing at it again. They have to do something. To use the cover story to blanket the planet and call it what you will, stratospheric aerosol injections, to deflect the sun from coming through. Just think about the implications of that one for a minute. What the plants need for photosynthesis, which gives us our oxygen. Anyway, I'm of the firm conviction that everything that's going on in the world, a lot of what's going on in the world, is an orchestrated distraction, including the Ukraine situation. We're in the 2nd year now. Where's the mainstream journalist covering all the action that's supposedly going on? I'm not denying things are not happening and people are not dying. Of course they are. But where is all the frontline battlefield journalists like you've seen in the Iraqi war, Afghanistan, and everywhere else in the world? You see absolutely no coverage. You hear a lot of rhetoric. Anyway, that's just what I think. Now we have a lot of talk about the bird flu to human transmission now. You see what's going to be coming next? A mass killing of all bird and related wildlife. So I also want to talk to you about something about another item in the news. They discovered recently a molten layer of magma, not spotty here and there, but around the entire circumference of the planet underneath the crust. I believe it was 100 miles deep. They discovered a layer of magma, much higher up. We're talking about the asthenosphere now, maybe just underneath the lithosphere. So let's talk a little bit about that. So magma that normally supports the crust is thick, rockious. It's too thick to push through the fractures. In essence, it seals it up, or coagulates like blood, for example. So there's no volcanism, except through the pre-established roots hotspots, for example. Hawaii is a hotspot. Now, with the outer core expansion and the rise of magma and its heat, the deeper you go into the earth, the hotter and more viscous the magma. More viscous, thinner, hotter. Now, as this rises, this causes what's called lithospheric melting or thinning, melting away of the underside of the crust. Now, with the rise of this lightweight, hotter magma, it's not meant to support the underside of the crust. It melts the crust and it makes it thinner. Therefore, areas of the crust that are already naturally thin, like the ocean crusts, and then stepping up to the continental shelves, for example, southwest Ireland, and then the east coast of New Zealand, main island south of Christchurch, all those heat anomalies coming up. I said to watch out for these areas. First, where the crust is thinnest, oceanic crust, average 6 kilometers thick. Then, coastal areas, continental shelves. And then third, the coastal volcanic ranges. Now, the increased pressure of the harder, more viscous magma coming up pushes aside the harder, the cooler, more rocky magma, which is supporting the crust. Then we have what's called fountain magma. So, for example, recent volcanic eruptions in Iceland and La Palma, you notice that there were fountain magma shooting up. That is harder, more viscous magma from deeper within the earth because of the outer core pressure pushing up that harder magma coming up. Now, this is important in that old eruptions have a thinner scarring crust. It's like a scab on a laceration, old scabby blood. It's more brittle, it's more fragile. So these are a lot of the things that I'm seeing. This is why I'm focusing a lot of attention on these heat anomalies coming up. I expect them on the ocean crust, and they've been happening along with the volcanic eruptions, Honka Tonka, Honka Haipai, La Palma, many other regions. And now we're starting to notice them on the coastal regions. And this becomes a little bit worrying. Now, unless someone can give me a whole bunch of reports from Ireland that these are large farmlands being burnt off, which they're not, because a lot of these heat detections are on the sides of mountains and in rocky ranges. But now there's obviously some fires going on. So unless they are prescribed or controlled burns, I would start to be a little bit concerned now. As for the ones in the main island, New Zealand, I spoke to Granny who lives in New Zealand. And apparently you're still on drought conditions, so therefore you're not going to have any authorized or allowed controlled burns in those areas. And of course the Falklands Islands heat signatures, including in the waters, and now we have a fire down there, and this is the second time. This time last year, massive fires in completely uninhabited areas. So the way I look at it, the more dramatic and sensational the events, what's happening on our planet, the closer we are to that other planet perhaps coming in, and the distractions, along with the cover stories to explain the violent earth changes that are expected. The massive tidal waves coming in, sea level rise. On the other end, oceans receding. So anyway, folks, eyes open, all right? And if you have any information, please send it to me. Ireland, New Zealand. I'm not asking anybody from the Falklands, because the only one down there is some few penguins, and that's it. See what else. Yeah, that's about it. We're still under geomagnetic storm conditions, somewhere between G1 and G2 right now. KP4 or 5, maybe 6. Elevated solar winds. And since that last CME, last two CMEs, sun has actually calmed down a little bit. However, we still have that energy, those muons coming in, penetrating the Earth's crust and reacting as expected. The cosmic rays are the secondary showering particles, the muons, that penetrate the Earth's crusts and excite or cause bubble nucleation of silica-rich magma and deep earthquakes, such as they've already started again, the Tyrrhenian Sea, Italy, and Bonin Islands. There'll be a few more regions over the next, I would say, 24 hours. So we'll pay attention to those, as well as the increased risk of seismic responses, earthquakes. And that's going to be it for now, folks. See you tomorrow.